All right, let's dive into northern Portugal today. We've got this awesome National Geographic Traveler article, and it looks like we're going way beyond the typical tourist stuff. So get ready to explore some hidden gems. Who knows, maybe it'll even inspire you to plan your own Portuguese adventure.
You know what I love about this article is it's like more than just a travelogue, you know what I mean? It really digs into the heart of rural Portugal, the people, the history, the traditions. Some of them are like still alive today.
Okay, you've definitely got my attention. They mention a national park with wolves and a village with like these masked figures that terrorize people. Sounds a little bit intense.
Yeah, it definitely makes you curious. And it shows that kind of contrast you find in northern Portugal. You have this peaceful nature, but then, bam, these really vibrant traditions, almost primal, you know?
So where does this adventure begin?
We're starting in the Minho region. Picture this. You're driving from Porto to Amares. Winding roads, vineyards full of these amber grapes, and forests, all decked out in autumn colors. The author even talks about chestnuts falling from the trees, mushrooms popping up everywhere, and this sense of timelessness hanging in the air.
Wow, it sounds so peaceful. Is that where that Posada Mosteiro de Amares is? The one that used to be a monastery and is now like this luxury hotel?
That's it. It's a great example of how they respect the past in this region, but still embrace modern stuff, too. The architect, Eduardo Souto de Moura, he turned the monastery into this amazing hotel, but he kept all that historical charm.
It makes you think, how can we, like, strike that balance in our own lives? Honoring tradition, but still moving forward.
That's a question we'll be coming back to a lot, I think, during this deep dive. But for now, let's leave that peaceful setting and head into the wild. We're going to Peneda Gerês National Park, the only national park in Portugal.
That's the one with the wolves, right? I'm curious, how many wolves are we talking about here, and how do they affect the park's ecosystem?
Well, the article says there are around 300 wolves. And they're crucial, really, for keeping things in balance ecologically. You've also got semi-wild horses roaming around and these indigenous cows. It's a pretty unique environment, really biodiverse.
It's amazing how nature just thrives in those untouched parts of the world. But I imagine tourism and, well, just modern life in general, it must have an impact even in a place as remote as this.
You're right. The author kind of hints at some of the difficulties that these rural communities face, things like people moving away, economic hardship, and the struggle to hold on to those traditions as the world changes around them.
It's a tough situation, isn't it?
Fair.
How do you preserve these traditions without stopping progress? It's a real balancing act.
Yeah, no easy answers there.
Yeah.
But you know what? While exploring the park, the writers stumbled across something incredible. Remnants of an old Roman road via X8. It used to link Braga to Astorga in Spain.
Whoa, a Roman road? That's so
Yeah.
cool. It's amazing how these echoes of the past can pop up out of nowhere. What did they find exactly?
They found these really well-preserved mile markers and even some stone tablets with, get this, Latin inscriptions on them. It's like a direct link to an empire that lasted for centuries and shaped so much of European history.
It makes you want to reach out and touch those stones, to feel that connection. It also makes me think about, how much did the Roman Empire really influence Portugal? What traces are still visible today?
Their impact is massive, and it's everywhere. From their language and laws to their architecture and even agriculture, the Romans laid the groundwork for a huge chunk of Portuguese culture. Even some of the food traditions we'll be talking about, they go all the way back to Roman times.
It's a good reminder that history isn't just dates in a book. It's this living legacy that shapes who we are today. And speaking of legacies, the article mentions a village that was literally lost to progress, Vilarinho de Ferna. It got submerged by a hydroelectric dam.
Yeah, that's a sad story. It makes you think about the choices we make in the name of progress and how they affect communities, traditions, and the environment. The village actually reappears sometimes when there are droughts, like a ghost from the past. It's a powerful reminder of what was lost.
It's a haunting image. It makes you wonder, is there any way to balance progress and preservation?
That's a tough one. And the answer probably depends on the situation. But the article introduces us to someone who's actively working to bring back lost traditions, Rita Costa Pinto de Barros, and her shop, Loja de Parque.
So we go from a village lost to progress to someone actively reviving traditions. It's an interesting contrast. What kinds of traditions is she bringing back at Loja de Parque?
Well, it's less about specific traditions and more about this idea of local craftsmanship and connection to the land. Her shop is full of locally sourced organic products. Like she sells this sweet craft beer made by a beekeeper and a gin that's infused with mountain herbs and even medicinal plants that are harvested by a botanist nun.
Wow, it's like she's not just selling products, but stories. The stories of the people and the land behind those products.
Exactly. It's about connecting people to where their food comes from, reviving that sense of community that's so often lost in our modern world. Makes you think, where do you find that sense of connection in your own life?
It's a good question. So, from the peaceful countryside, the writer heads to Braga, Portugal's third largest city. It's a center of religious devotion. That's quite a shift in gears, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Braga is steeped in history, and you can really feel that religious significance everywhere you go. The article talks about the Bom Jesus de Monte with its impressive staircase, and of course the Braga Cathedral. It's the oldest one in Portugal, and it's this incredible mix of architectural styles.
Oh, right. That's the one with the mummified archbishop, right? You don't hear about mummies in cathedrals every day. What about that mix of architecture? What does that tell us about Braga's history?
Well, the cathedral is like a timeline of Portuguese architecture. You see Romanesque, Gothic, Manueline, and Baroque elements, all reflecting different periods of influence and artistry.
I can just picture it, the soaring arches, the intricate carvings, those beautiful stained glass windows. It must be an incredible sight.
It truly is. And that presence of the church, it's so strong in Braga. The writer even points out that the main newspaper there is run by the church, which really tells you something about its enduring power in this region.
It's interesting how tradition and faith are still so intertwined in a modernizing world. But apart from churches and cathedrals, did the writer experience any other side of Braga's culture?
Yes. They came across these lively folk dances happening in the Praça da República, a reminder that Braga isn't just about religious tradition. There's this vibrancy, this youthful energy that pulses beneath the surface.
I love that image, that contrast between ancient faith and this modern, energetic feel. It sounds like Braga has so many layers to uncover.
Oh, for sure. And uncover them we will. Our next stop is Barcelos, a town famous for its medieval charm and its status as a UNESCO Creative City.
A UNESCO Creative City. Now that sounds intriguing. What makes Barcelos stand out in the world of art and creativity?
Well, it's a place where tradition meets innovation, where they're taking these age-old crafts and reimagining them for today's world. The article introduces us to the Barassa brothers, fourth-generation ceramicists, who specialize in something called figurados.
Figurados. What are those?
They're these incredibly detailed and colorful pottery figures, often depicting scenes from everyday life, folklore, and mythology. The Barassa brothers learned their craft from their grandmother, Ana Barassa, who was a remarkable woman. She gained recognition in a field that was, dominated by men back then.
Another amazing example of a strong woman keeping those traditions alive. It seems like women have played a vital role in preserving the cultural heritage of northern Portugal.
Absolutely. And these brothers, they're really determined to carry on their family legacy. Even though they're facing a lot of uncertainty in a changing world, they're not sure if their own children will follow in their footsteps, which is a challenge a lot of artisans face these days.
It really makes you think about the future of traditional crafts. In a world of mass production, how can we make sure these skills and this artistry don't just disappear?
It's a concern for a lot of people, but there's a bit of hope in Barcelos. The town's attracting artists and tourists, creating this energy that might actually revitalize these old crafts.
That's great to hear. Okay, so speaking of keeping traditions alive, our next stop takes us to Vila Verde and the world of lenços dos namorados.
Ah, yes, the lovers' handkerchiefs. They're these beautiful white linen squares all embroidered with images of nature and romantic messages. They give you a real glimpse into 18th century courtship rituals.
That sounds incredibly romantic. How did these handkerchiefs actually play into courtship back then?
So young women, called minhotas, they would embroider these handkerchiefs and give them to the men they were interested in. The way a man wore the handkerchief, it would signal their relationship status to the whole village.
Wow, it's like a public declaration of love, all sewn into fabric. It's so charming and unique. But if it's an 18th century tradition, how is it still around today?
Well, we have Cristina Lopes and her colleagues at Aliança Artesanal to thank for that. They rediscovered this almost lost craft in the 1970s and have been working hard to bring it back ever since. Cristina even found all these personal love stories and, even heartbreaks while researching the tradition.
It's amazing how she connected with the human stories behind those handkerchiefs. It's like she brought the past to life through the experiences of the people who made them. It reminds us that history isn't just about events. It's about the lives and loves of real people.
Absolutely. And those stories continue to be woven into the fabric of Vila Verde today. Christina and her team even create custom handkerchiefs for modern-day couples and special occasions.
That's a wonderful example of how a tradition can evolve and adapt without losing its heart. But our journey through northern Portugal is not over yet.
We're about to enter a whole new landscape, both literally and culturally. Get ready for the rugged beauty and deeply rooted traditions of the Tras-os-Montes region.
So from lush vineyards and romantic handkerchiefs to something more rugged and remote, you've got me intrigued. What can you tell us about this new terrain?
Picture this. Huge, windswept plateaus, fields carved into the sides of mountains, and this sense of isolation that just surrounds you is a place where time moves differently, where the old ways of life still hold strong.
Wow, it sounds like a world away from the places we've visited so far. And what about the food? You mentioned earlier that Tras-os-Montes is known for its hearty cuisine.
Right.
What kind of culinary adventures await us there?
Well, the article doesn't mention specific dishes, but they do say the portions are legendary, like big enough to hospitalize diners.
Okay, I'll be sure to pack my appetite for this part of the trip. But beyond the generous servings, what makes the food in this region stand out? What are the main ingredients and flavors?
It's all about simplicity, authenticity, and that deep connection to the land. Dishes are made with fresh, locally sourced ingredients, often from the same farms and fields that have been feeding people for generations. It's farm-to-table dining in its purest form.
I bet the flavors are incredible. Robust, earthy, and full of character, just like the landscape.
You got it. And speaking of character, we're about to meet a local guide who really embodies the spirit of the Tras-os-Montes region, João Neves.
Tell me about João. What makes him such a special guide?
Well, João is a former army major who co-founded a tour company called Portugal NTN. He's passionate about showing people the real Portugal, those hidden gems you won't find in the guidebooks.
I already like him. It sounds like he's the perfect person to guide us through this lesser-known region. What kind of adventures does he have in store for us?
He takes the writer on a journey through some of the region's most stunning and culturally rich spots. They visit these mineral-rich hot springs in Chaves, which is João's hometown. Imagine soaking in those therapeutic waters, surrounded by all that natural beauty.
Sounds incredibly relaxing. Quite a contrast to those huge, hearty meals we were just talking about.
It was all about balance, right? Then they go on a sailing trip on the Lagos do Saber, which is this series of interconnected lakes created by a hydroelectric dam. It's a chance to see the region from a different perspective.
So from soothing hot springs to peaceful lakes, it sounds like the perfect escape from the stresses of modern life. It does make me wonder, though, about the impact of that dam on the environment and the people who live there. Did the article mention any concerns about its construction?
They didn't go into specifics, but it does bring up that bigger question about balancing progress and preservation, themes we keep encountering in our deep dive.
Yeah, it's a tough one. There's rarely a simple answer. But hey, let's not forget about those mysterious masked figures we were talking about earlier. The ones that cause all that mayhem in the village of Podens during their ancient carnival celebration.
Ah, yes. The Caretos. It's time to unravel their secrets.
I've been waiting for this. Tell me everything. What are these Caretos all about? What's their story? What do they represent?
Picture this. Masked figures covered head to toe in colorful tassels and cowbells, running through the village, chasing people, stealing kisses, even sneaking into cellars to get a taste of the local wine.
Huh. Sounds like something out of a folktale. A little mischievous, but kind of endearing, too. So what's the meaning behind all the revelry?
The Carnival of Podens is an ancient tradition that goes all the way back to pagan fertility rituals. It's a celebration of winter's end, the awakening of nature, and the promise of new beginnings.
So it's not really about terrorizing people. It's about letting go of the old and welcoming the new. It's about life, vitality, and the cycle of nature. It's amazing how these traditions survive, even in today's world.
And you know what's even more fascinating? The way the Caretos dress. They wear these elaborate costumes that are often passed down from generation to generation, with masks that have this mix of animalistic and human features. They're really striking, and it may be a little creepy too, to be honest.
I can only imagine. What about the people who make those costumes? Are there specific techniques or materials they use?
The article introduces us to Sofia Pombares, a young artisan who's one of the few people left in the village who still make Careto costumes. She described the whole process of creating those outfits, from carving the wooden masks to stitching the tassels and cowbells. It's quite intricate.
It sounds like a real labor of love. It shows how dedicated she is to keeping that tradition alive. I imagine it can't be easy being one of the only ones doing this. What are some of the challenges she faces?
Well, Sophia talks about the pressure of carrying on a tradition that's been around for centuries, that responsibility to make sure it doesn't disappear. She's also concerned about the future, Will there be anyone to take over for her when she's no longer able to make the costumes?
That's something we've heard a lot about, the struggle to keep traditions alive in a world that's constantly changing. But there's hope in Sophia's story, too. She's clearly passionate about what she does, and she's finding ways to keep the tradition going in modern times.
Exactly. It's not just about preserving the past, it's about making it relevant to the present. Sophia even mentioned that the carnival itself has changed, with women now participating as Caretos, which wasn't allowed before.
It's a great reminder that traditions don't have to stay frozen in time. They can and should evolve as the world changes. It's about finding that balance between honoring the past and embracing the future.
And that's something we'll keep exploring as we head into the final part of our deep dive. Get ready to uncover more hidden gems and explore the lasting impact of the Roman Empire on northern Portugal.
So we're back, ready to keep exploring northern Portugal. Last time we were talking about heading into the Tras-os-Montes region with João Neves, our awesome local guide. He seemed so passionate about showing people the authentic side of Portugal, beyond all the touristy stuff.
Yeah, his love for the region really comes through in the article. It's not just about the beautiful scenery, it's about the people who live there, their traditions, their connection to the land.
It reminds me of Rita and her shop in COVID.
Yeah.
They both really want to preserve and share that true spirit of rural Portugal. It's really inspiring, this dedication to keeping traditions alive.
It is. Makes you think about the traditions we value in our own lives, right?
Yeah.
What stories, rituals, or even crafts connect us to our heritage? Are we doing enough to protect them and make sure they don't get lost?
Those are big questions. But before we get too deep, let's get back to our adventure. You mentioned that the food in Tras-os-Montes is something else. The article said the portions are huge, big enough to hospitalize diners.
That's right. But it's not just about how much food you get, it's about the quality, the authenticity. The writer describes the cuisine as, simple, hearty, and truly connected to the land. Fresh, local ingredients, prepared with techniques that have been passed down for generations.
It's that farm-to-table thing we talked about. But here, it's not a trend, it's just how they live. I can almost smell those rustic flavors, those rich stews, the smoky grilled meat, fresh bread.
Imagine sitting down to a meal in a small, family-run tavern surrounded by locals, the smell of wood smoke and herbs in the air. It's more than just eating, it's experiencing the heart of the region through its food.
It sounds like a feast for all the senses. But beyond the food, what else does João show the writer in Tras-os-Montes?
Oh, he takes them to some amazing places. They visit these mineral-rich hot springs in Chaves, João's hometown. Imagine relaxing in those waters, surrounded by nature.
Ah, that sounds so relaxing. A nice contrast to those enormous hearty meals.
It's about balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, get this, they go sailing on the Lagos do Sabor, which is this network of lakes that were created by a hydroelectric dam. They get to see the region's beauty from a whole different angle.
Wow, from hot springs to tranquil lakes. Sounds like the perfect way to escape the modern world for a bit. It does make me think, though, about the impact of that dam on the environment and the local communities. Did the article mention any controversies or downsides to its construction?
It didn't get into specifics, but it does kind of touch on that broader question of how we balance progress with preserving what's already there. It's the theme that keeps coming up throughout our journey.
Yeah, it's a tough question, and there's never an easy answer. But okay, remember those mysterious masked figures we talked about earlier? The ones that run around Potence during their ancient carnival?
Yes. The Caretos. We're finally ready to dive into their world.
I've been waiting for this. Okay, tell me everything. What are these Caretos all about? What do they represent? Why are they so important to the community?
Okay, imagine this. Masked figures covered in brightly colored tassels and cowbells running through the village. They're chasing people, stealing kisses, even sneaking into cellars for a sip of wine.
Sounds like something straight out of a story. A little bit mischievous, but kind of charming, too. So what's the meaning behind all this revelry?
The Carnival of Potence is a really old tradition. Its roots go all the way back to pagan fertility rituals. They're celebrating the end of winter, the awakening of nature, the promise of new beginnings.
So it's not really about scaring people. It's about letting go of the old and embracing the new, about the cycle of nature and the energy of life. It's incredible that these ancient rituals still happen in today's world.
And you know what's really interesting? Those costumes they wear. They're elaborate, passed down for generations, with these masks that blend animal and human features. Pretty striking and, to be honest, a little bit creepy.
Oh, I bet. What about the people who actually make these costumes? Are there special techniques or materials involved?
Well, the article introduces us to Sofia Pomberes, a young artisan who's one of the few people left who still makes Careto costumes. She explains the whole process, from carving the wooden masks to attaching all the tassels and cowbells. It's really detailed work.
It sounds like she puts so much love and care into it. It's a real testament to her dedication to this ancient craft. I imagine it's not easy being one of the only ones keeping this tradition alive. What are some of the challenges she faces?
Sophia mentions the pressure of carrying on a tradition that's centuries old, making sure it doesn't fade away. She's worried about the future, whether anyone will be there to continue the craft after she's gone.
We've heard that a lot in this deep dive, the struggle to keep these traditions alive in a rapidly changing world. But Sophia's story is hopeful too. She's clearly passionate about what she does, and she's adapting the tradition for a modern audience.
Exactly. It's not just about preserving the past, it's about finding ways to make it relevant today. Sophia even mentioned that the carnival itself has changed, with women now participating as Caretos, which wasn't allowed in the past.
It's a good reminder that traditions don't have to stay the same. They can and should change with the times. It's about that balance, honoring the past while embracing the future.
And that idea of balance is something we'll continue exploring as we move into the last part of our deep dive. We'll be uncovering more hidden gems and looking into the lasting legacy of the Roman Empire in northern Portugal.
We're back for the final part of our northern Portugal adventure. It's crazy how this one National Geographic Traveler article has taken us everywhere, from peaceful monasteries and wild national parks to these ancient carnivals.
You know, what's really stood out to me is how this whole journey keeps coming back to this idea of balance. Balance between progress and tradition, between the past and the present, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this region so fascinating. History isn't just something you read about here. It's something you can really feel, see, and even taste.
Speaking of history, let's go back to something we talked about earlier, the impact of the Roman Empire on Portugal. Remember those remnants of that Roman road, Via Verde, that the writer found in Peneda Gerês National Park?
Of course. Those mile markers and the stone tablets with the Latin writing, it was like stepping back in time. It made me wonder just how big of an influence the Romans had on Portugal.
Oh, their influence is huge, and it's everywhere. They were in this region for over 6 centuries, and they left their mark on everything. I mean, we're talking language, law, agriculture, even how they plan their cities.
So when we admire the architecture of Braga Cathedral or enjoy a traditional Portuguese meal, we're seeing echoes of that Roman influence.
Exactly. And speaking of Braga, the article goes a bit deeper into the city's religious side and how powerful the church still is in this region.
Yeah, I remember the writer mentioned that even the main newspaper in Braga is run by the church. That's really saying something about their influence, even today.
The church has deep roots in Braga, going way back. Even when the Moors ruled in the Middle Ages, Braga stayed a Christian stronghold. It played a crucial role in the Reconquista and even the formation of Portugal as a country.
So it's a city that's really tied to the birth of Portugal. But I'm curious, how does this historical and religious legacy mesh with the modern secular world? Is there any, tension there?
The article hints at that a little bit. The church is definitely still a powerful force. But Braga is also a modern, vibrant city with a lively culture. It's that mix of old and new that we keep seeing everywhere we go on this trip.
It's like what we saw with the Barroso brothers in Barcelos. They're carrying on their family's tradition of ceramics, but they're also finding new ways to appeal to a modern audience. It seems like northern Portugal is always figuring out how to bridge that gap between its past and its future.
And that's what makes it so unique and exciting to explore. It's not stuck in the past. It's constantly evolving. It's this mix of history, tradition, and this amazing spirit of reinvention.
So what would you say is the biggest takeaway from our deep dive into northern Portugal?
I think it's that authenticity isn't just about holding on to the past. It's about finding ways to honor your heritage while also embracing the possibilities of today. It's about balance, about finding harmony between things that might seem like opposites.
It's about those quiet moments in a centuries-old monastery, the thrill of seeing wolves in the wild, and the joy of experiencing these ancient rituals that are still alive and well. It's about connecting with something more meaningful, something beyond the typical tourist traps.
And we hope this deep dive has inspired you to seek out those authentic experiences, whether it's in northern Portugal or somewhere closer to home.
So what are you waiting for? Grab your passport, pack your sense of adventure, and get ready to discover the magic of northern Portugal for yourself. Until next time, happy travels, everyone.